Hi there, and welcome to part 4 of my Stellaris Let's Play Advanced Strategy Tips and Tricks. In this video, we're going to be looking at colony designation and initial districts. We're going to make sure that we understand how we're not wasting research when we haven't picked a research option. We're going to be looking into first contact and getting the most out of diplomatic weight to properly estimate our opponent's strengths and weaknesses. And then finally looking into Starbase placement and trade routes, with a small section jumping into why brain slugs are fantastic. I hope you enjoy the video. Okay then, so here we are back. We have our homeworld, which is about to finish the 4th research lab. We have our first colony, which is almost completed, and our second colony, which is on the way. And then we also have a third planet just outside our space that we're going to think about building a colony ship towards. So the colony, our first colony, has just finished, and we have the initial designation of it, which is colony. Now that's going to give us a bonus to our pop growth speed and a little bonus to happiness. That pop growth speed bonus is going to go some way towards offsetting our negative modifier for pop growth that we get for not being a fully developed colony yet. And so once we have the administration building built here, which we need 10 pops to build to upgrade to planetary administration, we're going to get rid of that 50% negative modifier. We want that as soon as possible because a negative modifier to pop growth is a pain. We want to increase our pop growth. The more pops we have, the more stuff we have. The more stuff we have, the more things we can do in the universe and in the galaxy. So just looking at the other things that we can have our colony designation as. At the beginning it's going to start as I said, as this colony, but once we get to 5 population, that will no longer be possible to have a designation to have this one. So we're going to have to change to a different designation. Now, when we get to 5 pops, we'll also be able to build our first building. And we can either build something like an alloy building or the consumer goods factory. Both of those have their own specific colony designations, the Forge world and the Industrial world, which give a small reduction in upkeep of 20%. Now that sounds pretty good, but that only applies to the resource upkeep for the job specifically. It doesn't apply to the food upkeep of the population, the amenities upkeep of the population, or to the consumer goods upkeep of that population. So as an industrial world or a forge world, we would have a small bonus to the amount of minerals that we are consuming. On the other hand, with a generator world, we would have a 20% increase to the output, the complete output of a specific type of job. So generator world would be technicians, agriculture world would be food, mining world would be minerals. At 7, 8 or 9 population, most of our population is still going to have worker jobs. We'll only have 1 factory because we'll only have 1 free build slot. So we're going to get a much better return on kind of our investment, or the bonuses will much better align if we have something like one of these. So I'm going to build a generator district, and I'm going to keep building generator districts for my worker jobs. Because once I get to 5 population, as I said, this colony designation will go away. And once I get there, I'm also going to make sure that I redesignate it as a generator world until I get up to the 10 population mark, at which point I'm going to start reassessing. Because I'll have a second build slot available. It might actually at that point be better, and I will get more resources if I do designate it something like the industrial world or the forge world. On my second colony, you can see I've got plenty of mineral district space. So I'll probably build mineral districts here and designate that as a mineral world. On the other hand, I'm not going to be building lots of agricultural districts. I've got a surplus of 23 food, so I can support another 23 population roughly before I'll need more food. So that's not going to be a problem yet.
Special project concluded.
Now, my special project has concluded, and that's given me the ability to put brain slugs in my population, starting with just the scientists. So I'm going to try that with the scientists, and I'll get some I'll get some research out of it, which is good. It'll increase my research speed here, spending the stored research. Whilst I will be getting bonuses to my Unity and Science, on my home world I'm going to get a -20 stability reduction. So here's the event, it's popped up, and I'm going to add the brain slugs, but I'm going to get this -20 for 10 years. Now that's a problem, but because I've got the Crime Lord deal, because I'm an Empire Capital, I've got high happiness, that still won't bring me below 50 stability, so I'm still going to get a bonus to my resource output. So I think in this case it's a good trade-off. I'm also going to make sure my economy stays balanced. I'm going to buy a few more consumer goods, and I'm just going to sell a little bit less food. Something else I'm going to look at is the trade value I've got in my empire and my trade routes. So looking at Gamesia, I've got 2 trade value not being used. I've also got a colony there developing. Later on in the game, that colony is going to start producing trade value, and I'm going to want to collect that. So if I go to the trade view down here at the bottom, I can see that my homeworld has a Starbase, and that's got a trade collection range. So that's collecting at one system away from itself. So I want to be collecting at Gamesia. I can either build another trade hub or another building to increase my trade collection range, or I can build a Starbase at Gamesia. Now, if I were to build a Starbase at Gamesia, that would allow me to collect my trade there. It would also allow me to build some modules. I need to be thinking about increasing the trade protection in routes coming back to my capital. So a Starbase at Gamesia or at Jap would be very useful at the moment for my later expansion, as I'll be getting trade coming back and I want to be protecting it. So I'm going to upgrade the Starbase at Gamesia. And then once it's upgraded, I'm going to be looking at building modules there. So to increase my trade protection, I'm going to build a gun battery or a missile battery. I'd always recommend building gun batteries over missile batteries, as there is nothing that can protect against a gun, whereas a missile can be stopped by point defense or fighters. So we've also discovered some aliens here in this system, beta aliens. Now, we could initiate a project to contact the aliens. I would recommend never doing that. First off, that's going to take us 8 months, possibly more, depending on what stage we're in our buildings, which is quite bad. That's 8 months of research we're never going to get back. That's the equivalent of a quarter of a technology, which really we can't afford to fall behind on. We're trying to rush ahead. So I would always recommend waiting and letting the AI
research concluded.
Contact you. Now, something else that's happening is we're at -4 consumer goods. I suspect that's due to some population mismanagement on our capital. Yeah, so coming back to our capital, we can see that the AI has prioritized the clerk jobs over the technician and miner jobs. So to sort that out, I'm going to reduce the number of clerk jobs by 2, which will fill up the technician and miner jobs. And once I get to the end of the month, that would increase my minerals and my energy, and that will allow me to be able to afford to buy the extra 7 consumer goods I need to balance my budget. Let's make sure our science ships are out surveying. That's important. And what we'll also do is we're going to make sure that our construction ship, once this starbase is built, moves off to Heneri so we can build another starbase there. Because this is probably this alien species here. We can see it's a science ship, so we've probably got some aliens quite close to our borders. So we want to make sure that a choke point like this, a key system, is taken. Now, something that you should never panic over is seeing that you have research available. Research isn't just immediately lost if you aren't researching something. You actually can store your research points, up to 6 months worth of them, to then be used and plowed back into research. So I'm going to select here, I'm going to take the research speed bonus, because that's really good. I want that at the moment. And if I hover over this, you can see from the breakdown that I'm also getting plus 67 from stored research, which is really good. That basically means that I'm not losing anything from having not been researching for a few months. And then over here, I'm going to take, fantastic, I'm going to take genome mapping. That's going to give me an extra 10% bonus to my pop growth speed. And then looking at my capital, at this point now, I'm going to...
Construction project concluded.
At this point now, I'm going to actually buy some consumer goods so that I can start building a colony ship at my home world. And I'm not going to choose the brain slugs because they're going to get a minus 25% to pop growth, which is actually quite a hindrance. I'm also going to get another tradition. I'm going to keep in the same category because you should always keep filling up the same category of traditions, as for each additional category you have, you get an increased cost to your next tradition. And you want to be filling up a category so you can get an ascension perk as soon as possible. So it's always a good idea to keep going with the same categories. I'm also going to, at this point, sell some minerals, as we've got a little bit of an imbalance on our energy credits, and that's always good to stay in the positive with energy.
Construction project concluded.
And here we can see, yeah, so we're definitely going to have a border with an alien civilization. Okay, so we've established communications with an alien species. We're going to say hello, it's pretty normal. And now we're going to have a little look at their civilization and just try and see where they are relative to us. So they have 35 population, that's pretty close to ours at 37. On the other hand, they have an overwhelming fleet power compared to us. Now, it can be a bit confusing to try and work out what overwhelming really means relative to where you're at. There's overwhelming, superior, equivalent, inferior, and pathetic. Now, those various words don't really mean much concrete. On the other hand, what we can do is we can look at diplomatic weight. Now, I'm going to look here at this diplomatic fleet. The diplomatic weight from fleet power is 10. I'll compare that to our diplomatic weight from fleet power, which is 3. We have 3 ships which have a military strength of 123. That is equivalent to 3 diplomatic power, apparently. So that then means we can take that and kind of work out that the other alien species over here has somewhere in the region of 9 to 11 ships. Possibly each individual ship is a bit stronger, possibly they're a bit worse than ours. That gives us a rough idea of their power. And that can be really good when you're thinking about going to war with someone and you need to know almost exactly what their actual strength is, rather than kind of the wishy-washy terms that are used here. In addition to that, we can look at their technology. So they have a diplomatic weight from technology of 28. Ours, on the other hand, if we go to our species, our government is 34. So we're already 6 ahead of our neighbors, our rivals, which is pretty good going. We want to keep that up. So let's keep going. I'm also going to build this starbase here just to prevent our neighbors from grabbing it first.
Research concluded.
And here I'm going to take geothermal fracking for the mineral bonus, and because I'm going to get a bonus to industry. And so if you can look here at our leaders, I'm getting a big bonus here to my research output from having the brain slugs. I'm also getting a bonus to my scientists are giving extra bonuses as well, which is really good. That's great. I can't complain. And if we look at the leaders we can recruit, as you can see, some of them now have brain slugs. And we'll probably be wanting to recruit leaders with brain slugs for the extra bonuses we'll get. For instance, this leader here is going to get a starting bonus of plus 10% to fire rate, so he'd be a great fleet leader.
Concluded.
Our neighbors have only colonized one world in their system. If you click on the details map mode at the bottom down here, it'll give you a lot more detail. This will basically allow you to see if your opponents, if the AI civilizations have any planets in their systems which they haven't colonized yet. It's always a good idea to turn details map mode on now and again to have a good look at what's going on around you. Though I understand it can be a large amount of information and it does somewhat ruin the aesthetic of the game, and it can be good to turn it off to just see a bit more clearly what's happening. And so we've got the colony ship here. We're going to send that off to this planet over here. Okay then, I'm going to leave this video here for now. I hope you've enjoyed part 4. I hope you found something interesting that you can take away from this and apply to your own games. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a like, you could comment, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, as I'm going to be releasing more videos as time goes on. And thanks for watching.